West Indies were made to bat first for the first time this World Cup, and it's not a batting performance that they would want to remember. They set themselves up. Chris Gayle saw out the new ball. They put themselves in a position to take off at 144 for 3 entering the 30th over. Then they lost 4 in quick time, and at half-time, it's a bit of a sorry scorecard. 212 is where the West Indies innings has come to a close in just under 45 overs. Nicholas Pooran and Shimron Hetmyer looked like they were rebuilding and giving just the platform to that hard-hitting, power-hitting lower middle order after Chris Gayle's 41 ball 36. It looked like it had seen the new ball off. But credit to Mark Wood, Jofra Archer, and a little significant spell by Joe Root that dented West Indies' innings at crucial moments. On ESPN Cricinfo Matchday UK 2019, on our halftime show, I'm Ronak Kapoor. If you're just waking up in the West Indies, in the Caribbean, watching our coverage, just trying to get hold of what's happened, we look back at it because they had their moments and then they just failed to deliver, did the West Indies. Michael Huss is here, so too Ajit Agarkar. We'll also hear from Darren Ganga and Graham Swan with Alexis Nunez in the UK in just a bit. But Huss, how would you sum up that batting display? 212 all out the West Indies.
Well, I think it was pretty disappointing. There were some batsmen there get some really good starts but weren't able to go on with it. I was impressed with Pooran though. I thought he played a lovely innings for the West Indies. Just probably needed to go a little bit longer. He was undone with a very good delivery and he also needed some more help along the way. As I mentioned, some good starts from the West Indian batsmen, but some pretty soft dismissals, I think you'd have to say. They gave a lot of wickets away to England, who did bowl very, very well. They need to be given some credit as well.
Ajit?
Yeah, poor performance. I think you said it, 144 for 3 at that stage. And when the opposition captain has to get Joe Root on, you know you're doing something right and you need to capitalize at that stage. The fact that he had to get Joe Root on told you that it wasn't a pitch where 4 seamers were going to get the job done for him. Unfortunately, you know, those 2 wickets, 2 real bonuses, that's pretty soft from Hetmyer. And a little bit unfortunate from Jason Holder. But and after that, couple of shots. I mean, Andre Russell's shot was pretty disgraceful in that situation. I don't know whether his teammates, how they'd take it. I know there's a certain way that he bats. But with 14 or 15 overs to go at that stage, and he has the other game. He can defend. So, and Brathwaite even towards the end. Jofra Archer, to take Jofra Archer on 150 kilometers, trying to pull him 3 balls in a row and missing. Disappointing. I think we've probably seen the worst of the West Indies.
Okay, those are strong words from Ajit. So let's just pick up on that even before I go to Darren. Let me have a word. If you were a West Indies fan, and I know Darren is one, so I will go to him, and you saw the way Andre Russell plays, do you understand because that's what you get with Andre Russell? Or are you still livid and saying, no, that's not good enough in the World Cup?
Yeah, you hear it all the time. People say, oh, that's the way he plays. But I think that's a bit of a cop-out at times. Yes, we know how destructive he can be, but you need to play that way in the right situation. At that stage of the game, the West Indians were in a bit of a precarious position. He just tried to hit his way out of it, but they needed him just to bat some time, get some more time in the middle, rotate the strike a little bit, and then look to launch maybe a little bit later. So I think if I was a West Indies fan, I'd be disappointed with that dismissal from Andre Russell and probably the way he went about his innings with so much time left in the innings.
Was already dropped before that.
He was
already lucky before that.
Not even gone to 21. Okay, let me go to Darren Ganga, who was hoping that the West Indies show a different sort of approach or apply themselves differently. And Darren, let me get thoughts from you first. We saw Chris Gayle, who came out with a conscious effort to bat differently. But I'd also like you to touch upon the chat that Ajit and Michael have raised here in studio about Andre Russell and whether what you're getting from him is good enough.
Yeah, let me deal with Andre Russell first. I think it's beginning to make a lot of people question whether Andre Russell has another game than his power-hitting game. Because if you look at his first-class record, he's barely played 20 first-class matches. And that's the issue. When I talk about the vulnerability of this West Indian side, there are many players in this 50-over team which have not played 50 first-class matches. So you start to question whether there's a different game to some of these players, especially when the situation warrants that you absorb pressure, you apply yourself, and just temper that power game. I thought the West Indian batting, it lacked equilibrium in terms of approach. If you saw Chris Gayle, he was very dormant at the start and then went ultra-aggressive. Many of the players were ultra-aggressive. Only Nicholas Pooran, you would say, had that balance between attack and defense and looked very comfortable at the crease. So that's why I've always said that this batting lineup is still very vulnerable. And I'd like to see a Darren Bravo in this batting lineup because he, out of all the players, have, over 100 one-day matches. He's played a fair amount of first-class matches. Even Shea Hope, you look at his first-class record. These guys, they have a database of the longer format that they can turn to in times of difficulty, especially when you need to absorb pressure, and use your technique and use your batting skills to get you through the tough periods. Many of these players, they've played a lot of T20 cricket, even T10 cricket, and their approach is just one-dimensional. So you'd find the West Indian batting to a large extent, with the exception of a Bravo, Shea Hope, and maybe Nicholas Pooran, not being able to show a different side to their game. And 50-over cricket, more often than not in English conditions, require that.
Right, let's go straight to the UK now, where Alexis is with Graham Swan. And I know that Swanee would be jumping up and down, and also might have there he is with his English flag to just outdo your West Indies cape. But before you go to the England bowling, I want you to also go into detail, Alexis, with Swanee on the chat that we're having here about just the approach and the lack of gears that the West Indies batsmen seem to have, that's made us see what's been a very disappointing batting effort.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, as we're talking about West Indies fans, you'll find that are bigger than me, of course, and I work in it as well. And it was just definitely a very disappointing performance, that shot from Jason Holder. I mean, I believe Mike said it, that it's just a lot of soft dismissals too. But I guess we'll start with Andre Russell, because that is where the big question was, and his approach to the way he went about the innings. We know that he's carrying that injury, and that's probably why he wasn't able to rotate that strike. I mean, there were questions if he should have had a runner, and he went into Andre Russell mode, thought that he could just basically blast those balls when there was so much time left in it. Do you sympathize with him like that, or again, how would you describe
Okay,
that?
I'm going to go completely against the grain. I understand what everybody's saying. I don't think you can celebrate Andre Russell for the brilliance of his IPL performances, for the destructiveness of him, if you're then going to turn around when it doesn't go well and say, no, he should have batted longer. Nicholas Pooran was at the other end, so there was a steady batsman who could have seen the tail in. They knew they had to get 300 on that pitch. I absolutely applaud him. After he was dropped, he then hit the next couple of balls for 6. England were worried at that point. I was worried as an England fan. The fact that he got out, it's a big ground here. It's a lot harder to clear the ropes than it is in many IPL grounds and many grounds around the world. But I don't think you can turn around and have a go at Russell. Your top order batsmen, your middle order batsmen are the ones who bat sensibly, and you use Russell. If you're in up against it, then you use him to really tee off and get yourselves ahead of the curve. So I'm going to stick up for Andre Russell on this occasion, even though Mike Hussey didn't. And I love you, Huss.
Well, we'll get into that love affair later. And speaking of love affairs, guess who is finally happy with an England bowling performance? This man right here. I'm interested to hear the grades that you'll give them. Let's start off with England's bowling in the first 15 overs.
Right, the first 5 overs were exceptional. Chris Woakes was brilliant at the start. He bowled an really good, excellent length, bowled quite quickly as well, and he was just getting enough movement to trouble the batsman. Had that been a test match, he'd have had 3 or 4 caught in the gully area. Chris Gale batted very well at the start, I thought, because he waited. They only had 12 off 5 overs. Then he teed off a little bit against Archer, but he really took Chris Woakes down in 1 over. That is good, aggressive batting from a world-class batsman. Woakes came back nicely. Mark Wood came back nicely as well. To get the early wicket is always a great thing for your skipper and for your team. I was impressed with Wood. The most impressed I was, though, you know what I'm going to say, the second spinner. It wasn't Moeen Ali because he wasn't picked, but Joe Root. It just shows if you have another option, someone turn it the other way. Adil Rashid didn't look half the bowler again today because he didn't have Moeen creating the pressure. But when Joe Root came on, people don't want to get out to the part-time spinner. They're usually reticent to really get after him, and they try and be a little bit cute, a little bit clever. That got him 2 caught on bowls, and basically took the West Indies from a great platform to a very precarious position that has ended up with Andre Russell in the soup. So England brilliant today, apart from Woakes' drop catch. What are you doing, Chris?
What are you doing? All right, well, I noticed you didn't mention a certain name that picked up 3 wickets. Jofra Archer.
Oh, I was waiting for you to do it.
You are welcome. I know you want to put more salt into my wounds there, but first of all, the matchup with Chris Gale, that's the one that everyone was expecting some fireworks, but we didn't quite get the fireworks in that one, did we?
No, I think there was a lot of respect from both of them, to be honest. And I think Archer bowled a good, aggressive length without going over the top. And because Gale wasn't trying to get out, he only gets out to the short ball when he has a flap when he's trying to hit it. But he was playing well. He hit him for a couple of 4s, but they weren't exactly taking the bowler down. I think there was a lot of respect. He came back, Archer, and bowled really well. That's if you're a tail ender going in against 90 miles an hour bowling, it's just not pleasant. And when it's short, and the ball to get Pooran out as well, flicked off the glove.
Yes.
Great review actually from Joss Butler. That was basically the ball that stopped West Indies getting anywhere near 250. So Jofra Archer, thank you once again, Alexis.
All right, we're going to leave that one at there. I know you guys will be coming back to us, but quickly before we throw back to the studio, if you were to give this England bowling attack a grade today?
9 out of 10.
9 out of 10. All right, so guess what? Swanee is finally happy with the England bowling attack.
Well, thank God that Owen Morgan gave Joe Root those 5 overs. Otherwise, we wouldn't know what Graham Swan would have rated this performance. But let's give full credit to England's bowlers, who even at the top, and you saw it after one ball, you said Chris Woakes is going to be, a difference here. And between Woakes, with Evan Lewis's wicket, Mark Wood, with Shea Hope's wicket, the importance of the full ball was again shown. Ajit.
Yeah, I mean, they were really good.
Yeah.
I think Chris Gayle, I thought, batted really well. I thought played the situation well, wanted to hang around. And obviously then, I don't think he runs between wickets too much. So he has to play the big shots at time. The big boundary got the couple of the West Indians got as well. I think both Andre Russell and Chris Gayle had a chance of clearing that fence if it wasn't for the big boundary. So
they know that it's a big boundary.
Yeah,
are you taking that as a challenge? I'm going to try and hit it even further.
No, not at all defending them. I'm saying it worked in England's favour.
Yes, absolutely.
Fortunately, a lot of the times we see those balls land in the stands. Wasn't the case today. England were really good. I think at one point, the fact that he had to give Joe Root told you what the conditions were on offer once the ball was a little bit older. But with the new ball, they were very good.
Yeah, let's come back to Swanee's contrary point of view. And Darren's also had a say on it about finding the balance between players that play that way and players that can play the 50 over gears and formats. And do the West Indies have enough of the balance? They've tried, let's say, Evan Lewis, Shea Hope are probably the only two you can look at as 50 over specialists along with Chris Gayle. And then they've got the rest. Is that fair to say that if the top order doesn't do the job, let's not go too hard at a Russell or a Brathwaite?
Well, firstly, can I go back to, did he say he loved an Australian there? That was something that I found amazing from Swanee as
he says
it was
anything.
to start.
We pay him good money. He says anything, yeah.
I thought he doesn't like any Australians. So that was one thing that I picked up there. But yeah, Swanee makes a valid point as well. That's the way Andre Russell does play, and he has played his best. But once the West Indies had got themselves into that situation,
right,
they probably just needed Andre Russell, who does have a lot of experience, maybe not in first-class cricket or a little bit more in 50 over cricket, but just needed to be a little bit smarter and to say, okay, well, I just need to be here just for a little while longer, and then pick my bowlers and who I might be able to take, and then sort of play, go for the big ones. That's what he does at his best. But yeah, I don't know. Swanee does make some valid points there, but I just wish Andre was just took it a little bit deeper. That's all.
I'm sure he's applauding because he's played that shot against England. I mean, he said we applaud him when he plays that way in the IPL, but that's a T20 game. That's the only thing. I mean, here you're approaching a 50 over game. And the situation, it doesn't mean that every time he comes into bat, he has to build an innings. But the situation, and he's got the other game as well. So, yeah, I'd be very disappointed if I was in that team. Not just him. It's not, we're picking on him because he can be so destructive and he's so good.
Yeah.
But I think there were a few other batsmen who committed similar mistakes. But I'm sure as a West Indian fan or the other players in that dressing room would want a different approach.
I'm sure Darren Ganga is itching to get back into this conversation, and we will go to Darren on the other side of the break. Time for a short one here on ESPN Again for Matchday UK 2019. Stay with us. We're still looking back at the West Indies innings, and we look forward to the English chase as well.
Chris Gayle and Marlon Samuels put on 372 runs for the second wicket in a World Cup match against Zimbabwe in 2015. This is obviously the highest partnership for any wicket across World Cups. In fact, in 11 editions, only 9 teams have scored more than this single partnership. To be fair, this partnership did last almost an entire innings, with the West Indies losing their first wicket off the second ball and their second wicket off the final ball.
If you're just waking up in the Caribbean and you were hoping that the West Indies with the bat would have given England a real task to chase and put 300 plus, 330 plus like Pakistan did, and you will see vulnerabilities even in this formidable English batting lineup. They've not done that, the West Indies. It's only a little over 200 that they've got. So let me go back to Darren Ganga for his final say on the first innings, and then we'll talk about the second innings. You've heard everything that has to be said, Darren, about Swanee defending Andre Russell, about the responsibility lying with other players at the top as well, and Russell's role is a different one. From what you're seeing now, what is the immediate fix to the West Indies batting woes, which, if it doesn't come off, can look as bad as it did today?
Swanee has a point in terms of Andre Russell being at his best when he's power hitting the ball. But I think they just need to jog their memories recently in that series against England when they scored 289 and won against England when West Indies batted first. They even shot England out for 113. So maybe an additional 20, 30 runs would have been more competitive in this scenario. Having said that, 212 is not a bad total because I still feel that there's vulnerability in this England batting lineup, especially with two injuries knocking on their doors, that of Owen Morgan and at the top of the innings, Jason Roy. So I still feel that they need to appreciate situations better as a batting unit, strike the right balance as a batting team, the West Indies. And I also feel that specialist position in playing three all-rounders is not the way to go. There needs to be a little more, I would say, control in the manner in which they go about doing things. So this is still a total that the West Indies could work with. I think they will get belief from what they achieved in the series in the Caribbean. And if they can pick up early wickets against England, might be a game on. I would like to see Chris Gayle used more as a bowler and maybe make that additional room for a batsman. So let's wait and see.
Okay, let me go straight back to Southampton now, where both Alexis and Swanee are there. And we have the point that Darren makes. The 8th over, Jason Roy walked off holding his hamstring and he didn't come back. Owen Morgan, the English captain, going off in the 40th over after holding his knee, grimacing in pain. He didn't come back either. So it does look like that Morgan at least will not be able to bat for at least another half an hour. Alexis, what's the latest that you've got? And how does this put the chase into perspective with Swanee as well? Take it away.
Well, yeah, definitely there were a couple of injury concerns, and of course there is that one about the man we keep talking about, Andre Russell. I did get to chat a little bit with him yesterday. I'll tell you guys what he said then, but let's start off with the England perspective then, starting off with Jason Roy, who clearly will not be able to open that innings. How much are England going to miss him there?
Well, Darren's right that this is a decent score now because of these injury fears for England. Jason Roy, of course, opening the batting with Johnny Bairstow. The reason they're number one in the world is because these two guys have frequently put on 100 in 10, 11 overs, and it basically makes any chase possible and any score settable. So I think that's a massive, massive issue for England, especially with a hamstring. If he's torn a hamstring, you're looking at 4 to 5 weeks. If it's just a strain, probably 9 or 10 days long term. That's not the story for me. The big story here is Owen Morgan, completely non-impact injury, walking in, and he was in serious pain. The only thing I can think, pain like that, is ligament damage. If it's ligament damage, that's the end of his World Cup. He's not going to play at all. He is the leader. He is the most influential reason why England are number one in the world. His proactive, aggressive leadership style, he's been incredible for English cricket. He's turned it all around. If he's not in charge, Joss Buttler, yes, is a good captain, is not as aggressive, but I think it leaves a massive, massive hole. So for me, I don't think Jason Roy's the story. I think Jason Roy can bat number 7. If he has to just hit boundaries, he can do that. Owen Morgan, for me, I think if he's not fit for this World Cup, that's shockwaves through the England camp, and I think it'd seriously dent their ability to win this.
All right, well, there you have it. So a very serious Swanee there.
I'm never serious.
Rightfully so. He's never serious, but when it comes to Owen Morgan, he's definitely serious. And it will be interesting because the West Indies now can't seem to use Andre Russell to bowl either because of that knee. And I had spoken to him a little bit yesterday, and he had said that he doesn't think he'll be able to bowl. And I can't be laughing, but whatever. That's how life goes sometimes. All right, so let's see how this chase goes. Thanks so much, guys, for coming to us, and I'm sure we'll be back after the match with you.
Of course. Thank you very much, Alexis. I can always count on you to give us the very latest from whatever's happening in Jamaican cricket and West Indies cricket. And poor Graham Swan, the boys born in Dublin and Durban, are putting England's campaign in disarray. But thank you very much to Graham Swan as well. We'll get more from him as this World Cup comes along. We'll first see if England can knock over these 200 plus runs and get some points on the board. Viewers in the Caribbean, this is where we leave you, and we will be back with detailed analysis with Darren Ganga, Graham Swan, Mike Hussey and Ajit Agarkar. Let's move you to the chase now. Viewers on ESPN Cricinfo, stay right with us. There's Plenty more coming up. Will Jason Roy or Owen Morgan feature at all? Looks unlikely. Remake of the England batting lineup in a pursuit of 213 coming up on the other side of the break for viewers in the Caribbean. And viewers on ESPN Cricinfo, like I said, stay right with us. We continue to build up to what could be a different looking England top order. Would Joe Root straight away open for you, and that's the makeup of the top order for you now?
Yeah, I think the most logical thing to do is just everyone just move up in the order. But Darren Ganger makes a pretty good point there. This total now, we think it's quite low.
Yes.
But England are effectively 2 for none.
Yeah.
2 wickets down for no runs.
And the nature of those injuries are not the kinds that you can still sort of
Don't
come out.
get a runner either these days.
You don't get a runner.
So it makes it interesting. But again, it comes back to what we were talking about on the batting side of things. That if the West Indians could have just eked out just a few more runs, got it up to 230, 240, then suddenly this score is looking really good with 2 England batsmen injured.
I mean, you can make a fight out of this as well. It's not like it's 120 or 100. It's 200 plus.
And it's been West Indies' strength this World Cup.
Yeah.
To bowl well with the new ball, get early wickets. I think every game they've managed to do that. And if they can do that today, that seriously puts England under pressure. If they get them 2 or 3 down, England will be tested. I think I still got a very long sort of batting lineup, but under pressure, it can do different things to you. I mean, the same batters who look good when there's a decent start. Two big players potentially may not be able to bat, or even if they do, won't clearly the movement will be restricted. So if West Indies start well, we could well have a decent game.
I mean, tell you what, if they need the services of Owen Morgan and Jason Roy in this chase, they'll already be in trouble, England. Let's just go to our Hotstar top comment of the match while we're at it and see what we've got for you. This coming from Anand in Kanchipuram. This is a real test for the West Indies. If they can win this game, especially after Gale and Hope didn't score big, they'll definitely have to be counted as a major contender. Now, then the responsibility lies on their bowling, Darren. And let me now go to how you would want to use the West Indies bowlers. They seem to have boosted their pace attack with the inclusion of Shannon Gabriel. He's not given O'Shane Thomas the new ball as Jason Holder. How would you start off in what is a pretty straightforward equation for the West Indies? They need to knock a couple quickly.
Indeed, and O'Shane Thomas will be pivotal to this demise of England if it is to happen, because he picked up a 5-wicket haul against England when they shut them out for just over 100 in the Caribbean. So him and Cottrell, they've been the West Indies' most penetrative bowlers at the start of the innings. Not quite sure how much Andre Russell is going to contribute, but I think those two, Jason Holder, Shannon Gabriel, he's a rhythm bowler, and if he's not played a lot of cricket, he takes a long time to get into stride. I'm hoping that he can find his rhythm very early in this match, because he's got pace, and I think he could ruffle a few of the English batters at the top of the innings. So I would say make sure that Carlos Brathwaite is used in between his faster bowlers, and not really allow England any chance to have a lull period where they could build partnerships and absorb pressure, keep that sustained pressure throughout the innings. And again, we've seen pace of the ball do some strange things in the first innings, so not be afraid to try a Chris Gale for a couple overs and see if he can get a breakthrough if a partnership is developing. It will require smart decision making by Jason Holder and maybe the senior players in this West Indian team if they are to win today.
Spin has worked against England earlier on in 2 out of 3 occasions. It was wrist spin though, and the West Indies don't have that on offer. We did see Bangladesh not quite successful against England with Shakib Al Hasan with the new ball. If you're a fast bowler and you have O'Shane Thomas, Shannon Gabriel, Sheldon Cottrell, are you just going to go all out and say you 3 are bowling all my first 20 overs? Or is there a case to balance that out?
Not really. I don't think they're defending 80 or 90. Might have been the case. But I hope he starts with O'Shane Thomas, because he didn't the last game when Kemar Roach played. At the moment, he's their best bowler. And Cottrell's obviously bowling well with the new ball. So those two need to start. He's right, Darren. I think it's got to be some good decision making on the field as the situation develops. And if they get 2 wickets early, I think they'll still be in for a game. I think the way West Indies has bowled with the new ball in particular, I mean, from England's perspective, they don't want to lose a couple of wickets to that new ball, because then, you know, there is a little bit of sameness to that attack. And if the ball doesn't do anything off the surface, then might be a little bit easier.
I mean, you have Joe Root who's going to open, which is something we thought was logical. But if a wicket falls here, then no Owen Morgan, which means either Butler comes 3 or Ben Stokes, who has batted 4. It must be a difficult adjustment for guys who are used to playing longer, sort of different sort of role to play the new ball against a good bowler, a good bowling attack?
We've talked about it with the Indian team, with the Shikhar injury, how destabilising it can be. I think even more so now for this England team.
Yeah.
Joe Root, for me, he becomes the key wicket for the West Indies because he is the one guy that can bat throughout the whole innings and have those aggressive players play around him. So if the West Indies can pick him up early, you're right, you've got other guys coming in playing in unfamiliar roles, and this has been one of the strengths of England over the last few years. They've had their team set for a number of games. They know their role, they know what they need to do, they just go out there and do it. But now, this has all been flipped on its head, so it's going to be a very interesting run chase.
Yeah, I love how
no Moeen Ali either.
No Moeen Ali, poor Swanee, yeah. But we've changed the entire tone of the show. We started going after the West Indies batting, and now at the end we're thinking this could be a game. So
The batting's still been disappointing.
Let's get predictions.
Batting's still been disappointing, even more so.
Absolutely. The bowlers will get them out of jail if they are to.
There are potentially 2 batsmen down. They should have. They were in a position to get more runs.
Right. Let me get predictions. Ajit Agarkar, you first.
I mean, England should get these runs.
Okay. Easy for you or challenging?
I mean, if they lose wicket, it'll be challenging. But it's a very gettable total. I don't think that the runs are a problem. I think the pitch looks much better than the one India-South Africa played on.
Yeah.
Once you play out the new ball, we saw it's not that difficult. Or to get people out is difficult. So. England keep their heads, they should get this.
All right, gut feel, Mike Hussey, England or West Indies?
I'm still feeling England. They've been the number 1 team in the world over the last year or so. There's going to be challenges come along the way. We're going to find out about England's bottle today, so I'm looking forward to it.
All right, Darren Ganga, will the demise of England happen? Don't think I missed those words.
It's going to be a close one. If the West Indies probably accumulated another 30, 40 runs, I'll definitely say West Indies. But my West Indian pride will still trump that English power that they have in their batting. So I'll go West Indies.
Very well. Thank you to Darren Ganga. Thoughts from him as well as Graham Swan, Michael Hussey and Ajit Agarkar at the end of this game. If they are to make a game of this, the West Indies, it's going to be a hugely entertaining second half. Catch us for post-match analysis on ESPN Cricinfo Matchday UK 2019.